I'd like to welcome you to a somewhat in-depth discussion as far as the process that you need to follow in order to end up with the best possible transaction. It is perhaps analogous to building a house. You've got to buy the land, got to check the zoning, get a soil report, hire an engineer, an architect, etc. If you miss any of those steps, you can run into real problems. The same thing is true with the sale of a business. First key issue in selling a business is to recognize that confidentiality is mandatory. Because human nature being what it is, if your employees find out the business is for sale, I assure you the thought occurs to them they're going to get fired, laid off, they're going to move the business, and they start looking for other employment. And you need to understand that while they can be very frustrating, your employees are a significant part of the value of your business. So confidentiality, critically important. Another issue is, over the years, and looking at literally thousands of tax returns of different businesses, I have yet to find a business where the tax returns maximize the profitability of the business. Why is that? People who own privately owned businesses have what are called owner discretionary expenses. Might be personal travel, personal this, personal that, etc. And therefore what I do is I go through a recasting process to add back into earnings all of those things that are not essential to the operation of the business in order to be able to accurately state the earning power of your business. Because the earning power is one of the key ingredients in the valuation of your business. Once I've done that in this process, it's a matter of then going to at least 3 SBA lenders, giving them the data and getting a verbal pre-approval. Understand, when the SBA lender goes to make a loan for your buyer, he really does 2 analyses. One is your business, its profitability, and the second later is that of the buyer as to his competence and credit worthiness. So getting financing commitments ahead of time is essential. During that time period, you also want to determine your best tax strategy, because it's possible to have 2 identical businesses, each sell for $1 million, and at the end of the day, after paying taxes, one owner walks away with less than $500,000, and the other walks away with right around $800,000. Now, I haven't met any clients lately who love paying taxes, so that the tax structuring is critically important to your decision making. And you need to decide ahead of time where you want that tax structuring to be allocated for your preferential purposes before you go to market. Next step is packaging. You don't want to have 150 looky-loos banging on your door, all interested in asking you dumb questions about your business. What needs to be done is to prepare what we call a CBR, a confidential business review, which is about a 20 to 30 page document, which contains a good 90 to 95% of all the information a prospective buyer would reasonably need in order to make a decision. No, not for me, or yeah, this looks interesting. So getting it packaged. And it's also important to note that they don't get that package unless they've signed a confidentiality agreement. What's your business worth? Let's assume it's worth X. Should you put that price in your package and ask for it? The answer is no. Your packaging, your CBR, and your sales work on the business should not state a price, because the value of your business is really a range of value. To illustrate that point, if you've got a financial buyer new to the industry coming in, they'll most probably be willing to pay X. But I can assure you, someone in the industry who could come in and merge your business with theirs, eliminate some duplicity of expense, and cut down on payroll, this, that, and the other, maybe close one warehouse, and so on. That business, your business, is worth more to that buyer than to the other financial buyer. So you don't want to create a ceiling by putting a price on the business, and let the price become a product of negotiation once you've sought out all of those synergistic buyers for your business. As you decide on going to market, you need to have a marketing plan, because you don't want to have a shotgun. You're not going to put a sign out in front of the business out on the front lawn, and your marketing plan needs to be with a rifle to locate financially qualified buyers capable of operating your business who have a potential interest in your geographic area and your business. And we are a master of those techniques, doing that confidentially. Our next task, as we get people bubbling to the surface with interest in a given business, is to get them qualified. Because it is dumb to spend any further time with someone who doesn't have the financial capacity, or has got bad credit, or obviously is not going to be approved by an SBA lender because of their lack of business experience. So you qualify the buyers. Once a group of buyers have been qualified so that you've got perhaps 6, 7 different buyers, it's very important that you keep them in the same window of time. Because to get an offer in January, another one in March, another one in August, another one in December doesn't do you much good. You're much better off to get 3 or 4 of them all at once, all putting offers on the table at the same time, so you can work one against the other and end up getting to yes with the best possible transaction. Towards that end, all buyers want to see the business and they want to meet the principals. So typically that is accomplished by scheduling a principal-to-principal meeting when no employees are around, and those meetings are typically about 2 hours, and it's a matter of everyone being very candid and full disclosure of everything about the business. Once we get to that point with a group of buyers that we're running through this process, what we do is we call for offers. We state that if you have an interest in owning this business, you need to submit a non-binding letter of intent by noon a week from Monday, or whatever the date happens to be. Now, my worst nightmare is to have 7 buyers go to 7 different attorneys, write up 7 different offers in 7 different formats. Then I'm stuck with the task, as is my client, of comparing apples, oranges, pineapples, and tangerines in order to figure out which is the best offer. So to resolve that issue, we give them a draft of a non-binding letter of intent with some blanks in it. Price, one thing and another that they will be filling in, but it takes care of all of the other housekeeping items. Will we put the tax allocations in there? Certainly. We want to control that, get that out of the way up front. Will we offer to provide a non-compete agreement? Obviously, it's a foregone conclusion. So it covers all of the housekeeping items, so that when we then get those offers coming in, it's a matter, before we do anything else, of taking what we believe to be the prevailing offers and getting their information and sending it over to those same SBA lenders who indicated a willingness to approve the business, to have them pre-approve the buyer, because you got to have both of those pieces of the jigsaw puzzle come together. Is it likely that the lender is going to say, absolutely, 100%, certainly I'll finance them? No, that's not how the world works. But a lender will give a qualified opinion, letter of commitment, saying, subject to the following things, valuation of the business, et cetera, we would be prepared to finance this buyer. You're now in a position, out of the 6, 7 offers that have come in, 4 of them have perhaps been generally pre-approved by the SBA lenders, to analyze those offers. I could spend an hour on talking about that, but anyway, it's unique to each individual situation. You will most probably end up ranking them 1, 2, 3, and 4, then deciding on a counteroffer, and when you make a counteroffer, you make it to one, not to the group, and you give them a specific time limit. Out of that process, you will generally find that you end up with a signed letter of intent. That letter of intent has contingencies, and those contingencies will be, I'll buy your business, I'll pay you X, this is how much I will put down, etc. However, it's contingent upon my getting financing, contingent upon my approving of due diligence, my getting a lease, etc., so that the next step in that process is to start to remove those contingencies. Due diligence is a process whereby the buyer is going to ask you for information about your business so that he can verify the conclusions that he has come to about your business. And I think in the industry, most business brokers like to keep that list to a minimum because it's a hassle to get the information and relay it. I disagree with that completely. Where they might ask, or most business brokers might suggest 5 or 10 items, our typical due diligence list is 40 or 50. Why? The more we disclose, the more that we document in writing, the lower the litigation risk profile. Because there's a lot of litigation in this industry where people buy a business, it doesn't go quite as well as they hoped it will, and what do? Hire an attorney, they sue the seller, they sue the broker, and so on. So that disclose and document and reduce your litigation risk. Next step is legal documents. Very occasionally, once every 2 or 3 years, we end up with a buyer and seller get their own attorneys, and there's a war that takes place. It costs each side $20,000, $30,000 in legal fees because they're fighting over the documents. We have perfected a process where we use the services of a neutral third-party attorney to draft the documents in a manner consistent with the signed letter of intent. We then require that those legal documents then be approved by legal counsel for both buyer and seller, so that you go through a process of clearing the contingencies in the LOI, you get escrow opened up, and you work towards the closing of the transaction. How long does all this take? Our experience is that from the time that we get substantially complete financial information from our prospective client, and we then go to market, that in roughly 90% of the instances, we end up with a closed transaction between 4 and 6 months. I have to put an asterisk on that because things happen. When September 11th occurred some time ago, the industry ground to a halt. We had transactions that didn't close, and it was just virtually impossible for a period of 6 to 9 months after that. So that, anyway, very high success rate over a period of time. When the transaction is closed, then the post-closing agreements come into place, your non-compete agreement, your training, your transition agreement, and so on. So what we've talked about is the process by which you should follow from beginning to end in order to end up with the best possible transaction in the sale of your business. Your business most probably represents a high percentage of your personal net worth, and it's a stepping stone to a new lifestyle, retirement, and you're entitled to every last dollar that you can get out of the transaction, and that's our commitment to you to achieve that on your behalf. Thank you very much, and I encourage you to view the other aspects of our website.